All right, got my splaining clothes on because this is Let Me Splain You Something. All right, so today what I want to splain you about is home inspections. And there's a lot of stuff to talk about with home inspections. There's certainly the items that you're looking for when you are on the home inspection, but really what I want to focus on today has more to do with what you do after the home inspection, charting a path forward from that point in your deal. And a lot of this is going to be determined by the terms that you wrote up when you submitted the offer. So, number one, you're going to be looking at, did you have an inspection contingency or did you not have an inspection contingency? So, in most states, this contingency is going to determine if you do a home inspection and you don't like the results, whether or not you can get out of the sale. In Massachusetts, we passed a law very recently that makes it so that everybody is allowed to do a home inspection. In fact, we have removed the home inspection contingency from our paperwork. That whole section is gone because everybody is allowed to do one now. That being said, the terms surrounding what you're going to do after that home inspection, you are still allowed to modify in your offer. So you can do a pass-fail inspection, basically saying, if it looks good, I'm sticking with the house. If it doesn't look good, I'm walking. You can also set a repair threshold, basically saying, okay, if I find less than $20,000 worth of repairs, then I'm staying in this deal. And you can set that number, kind of wherever you want. So for the purposes of this discussion, let's assume that you have an inspection contingency and that whatever you found during inspection was enough to trigger whatever threshold you might have had so that you have the option to walk away if you want to. And so when I'm having this discussion with clients, generally I advise that there's three major paths that you can take following the home inspection. So number one, as we already mentioned, you can walk away. You did the home inspection, you don't like the results, you kill the deal, you get your money back, and you go on to another property. So that's option one. Option two, you move forward with the deal as is. Whatever terms are set in place, you say, okay, the price that we agreed to, whatever else, I'm just going to move forward to the next stage. If you're in a state where you pay another deposit after that point, like Massachusetts, you do that and you continue on with the deal. Option number three is the one that we typically run into, and this is a renegotiation following your home inspection. That can look like different things. Most commonly, if you are renegotiating, you're either changing the sale price or asking for a credit, or you're asking for repairs following the home inspection. And there's pros and cons to both of these approaches. A lot of people like to ask for repairs. If they found things during the inspection and they're concerned about them, you can say to the seller, hey, I want you to fix X, Y, and Z item. And then if the seller agrees to that, they are going to hire licensed contractors. They're going to get them out, do the job. They're going to have to provide those receipts prior to closing so that they can prove, yes, I did bring these licensed people out. They did conduct the work. Here's the proof that they did the work. And then you move on to closing. The con side to asking for repairs is that while you are going to get a receipt that shows that licensed contractors did these repairs, you're not really going to have any control over the quality of those repairs. I mean, you're going to see it later. You're going to do a final walkthrough and just check to see that it was done. But you don't know who they called, if they called the best electrician in town or the worst electrician in town. All that's really required is they get someone that's licensed and they provide that receipt. So in a situation like that, you are kind of handing it over to them and saying, I'm going to accept whatever quality of work you pay to get done. The pro to having the seller take care of those repairs is that sometimes when you're doing home repairs, as anybody knows who has done a home renovation project, sometimes a project turns into more of a project once you get started. You open up a wall and you find out that there's way more to do than what you thought. And because licensed contractors are bound by certain rules, they can't just ignore what they saw and just do the project they were hired to do. Oftentimes, you're opening a can of worms, so to speak, that you thought you were just doing a $500 repair, and it turns out you ended up with $5,000 worth of repair work. And that's one of the things that people really like about asking for those repairs from the seller rather than doing it themselves, is if it does balloon, it's going to be on the seller's dime. It's not on your dime. The other option where you're renegotiating the deal, either you're getting money off the purchase price, or what I would recommend as being more useful is get it a credit at closing. If you're not already maxed out with your closing credits, getting a few $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. If it covers your closing costs, if you're financing, then that's cash in your pocket, and you can use that money to pay for the repairs yourself when you close on the house. Getting money off the purchase price doesn't help quite as much, because really all you're doing there is you're just reducing your monthly payment by a little bit. We're probably not talking crazy numbers here, so you're maybe knocking $25, $50 a month off that monthly payment. There's a lot that you can do with closing cost credits besides just covering your closing costs. If you have enough money, you can use it for a rate buy down, and that can significantly reduce your monthly payments by, maybe $500 a month for the span of a couple of years. If you owe your agent any commission out of pocket, you can use closing cost credit to cover that as well. All of this is with the goal of keeping more money in your pocket so that when you take care of the repairs, you've got that extra cash. Now, something that's important to note when you're deciding what to do and pursuing these negotiations, and this is something that I advise all my clients on, is when you get that inspection report and you're looking over the items that are on there, you really need to separate those into two categories. So category one are all of the items that you should have been expected to know about at the time when you toured the house. So this is the kind of stuff that's like, if you're walking up the front walk and there's a crack in the sidewalk, in the cement, you walked right past it when you went in the house, you saw it, your home inspector is going to flag that on the inspection report if they're doing their job right. They're going to notice that concrete is cracked, and they're going to make a little note, and hopefully they take a picture of it. But I don't believe in asking a seller to give concessions for something like that, because to me, that was baked into whatever price you negotiated with the seller. You already knew about that, and that's all the obvious stuff. If there's damage to the siding or just anything that a normal person could reasonably be expected to have seen and noted that, like, okay, that's something that's wrong with the house. Category 2 stuff is all the stuff that there's just no way you would have known about it. This is your electrical work. This is your plumbing work. This is the stuff that you hire the inspector to find for you, because you're just not going to know about it. And you're not going to be going through an open house with a screwdriver, taking the faceplate off the electric panel and looking inside to see what the wiring looks like. Chances are someone is going to stop you and ask you to leave. So these are the items that you single those out on the report, and that's what you're going to use as your basis to negotiate concessions, because these might also be items that the seller wasn't even aware about. And technically speaking, if you pull out of this deal and they are aware of material defects to the property, the agent is supposed to list those defects when the property goes back on the market. If we tell you, like, you got corroded pipes in the basement and there's a leak here and you got ungrounded outlets and all of these things, now that they know about it, they are supposed to put that back on the listing before they go back to market. If you'd like to discuss any of these things, you have questions about home inspections and the strategy behind navigating them, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to have a consultation with you. Whether you're thinking of selling or thinking of buying, it's important to know how to navigate this ahead of time so that you can have as smooth of a transaction as real estate will allow. Look forward to talking to you soon.